Well, we're having all kinds of internet issues, technical issues, but I think I've identified with my technical assistant's help that it's my upload speed. That will not be fixed until I get a new fiber optic service provider, which may be never. So in any case, this is not live. This is posted, so you will not be able to put in live comments, but you can put in comments that I can hear. So unfortunately, until I get fiber optic internet service, this is going to have to be the posting format. All right, let's try to get this thing going. Looks good. We'll see. All I need to do is hit one wrong button and it's over with. Okay, good evening, Hoosiers. After a brief medical hiatus during which my gallbladder was impeached and removed from office, the Constitution Solution is back in action. Thanks to all of you for your thoughts and prayers. Allow me to apologize in advance for any diminution of quality or content of this episode on account of ongoing recovery. However, tyranny takes no leave of absence, so it is imperative to continue with the defense of Firewall, Indiana. Tonight we will resume discussion of the Indiana Constitution, Article 11, Corporations. As you recall, the sovereign state of Indiana has had two constitutions. The original in 1816 and the second in 1851, which has amendments up to 2018. For this session, I am reading from the Constitution of the State of Indiana, annotated by Andy Horning. That's Horning. You can obtain this copy online. Andy is a Hoosier constitutional enthusiast, political junkie, and commentator who lives in, appropriately enough, Freedom, Indiana. Did you know there was a Freedom, Indiana? Well, you do now. Okay, Hoosiers, let's return to the usual format for these presentations. Are you ready? Let's roll. Good evening, Hoosiers. How are you feeling tonight? Used, confused, abused? Are you comprehending the fact that as of last week, these United States of America officially crossed the line into being a classic fascist dictatorship? Don't believe me? Look it up. Get yourself a copy of the JBS Overview of America. That's Overview of America. It's 29 minutes long. And pay attention to the descriptions of the different types of governments throughout history. It is only 29 minutes, and I guarantee that it will change your outlook of politics forever. Overview of America, jbs.org. Now, in a classic fascist dictatorship, the government does not own the means of production, but it controls it nevertheless. Just listen to the president's speech of last Thursday and tell me if you didn't hear a bit of Il Duce Italian in the background. Maybe it was just my sound system and some post-operative changes. In any case, Hoosiers, the threats to our God-given natural rights and liberties are real. And you know what? It's only going to get worse. Much, much worse. But do not despair. Do not despair. There is a way out of this mess. There is a solution. The Constitution solution. How did you know I was going to say that? So hello, I'm Dr. Chris McGarrah from Warsaw, Indiana, with yet another episode of The Constitution Solution. Now, for the last several episodes, I've been discussing the Indiana Constitution. You can obtain this little book size, pocket size from libertydefense.us, the Liberty Defense Pack from Bluffton, Indiana. libertydefense.us. Well, back to where we were. For the last several episodes, I have been discussing the Indiana Constitution because, after all, Indiana is a sovereign state, and this is where we live. In order to resist the unconstitutional acts of the federal government, it is necessary to understand both constitutions. Few and defined federal powers, numerous and indefinite state powers, subject, of course, to the limits specified in the state constitutions. That's from James Madison, by the way. I'd love to take credit for that, but I can't. So, why does the Indiana Constitution have an article on corporations? Well, if you understand the U.S. Constitution, then you will immediately realize that such matters were not specified in Article 1, Section 8, or anywhere else in that document. They were discussed in the convention and rejected. That, of course, takes us to the 10th Amendment. One of these days I will be brave enough to recite that, but for now we're going to read it so we don't miss a word. The 10th Amendment. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people. Understand? But first, a little Indiana history is in order. The 1816 Constitution had corporations as a very short Article 10. It dealt with a prohibition against the incorporation of banks, with the exception of specified state banks, and there was a collateral requirement in specie. That's gold and silver. There was great debate among the founders concerning banks and paper or fiat money. In any case, the state of Indiana went essentially bankrupt with infrastructure spending. And that led to the Constitution of 1851, where they tried to put in some more powers and more revenue sources. As with all things governmental, the 1851 Constitution grew in complexity and volume. But is bigger always better? Maybe not for government. Well, let's get down to the Indiana Constitution, Article 11, corporations. Section 1. The General Assembly shall not have power to establish or incorporate any bank or banking company or moneyed institution for the purpose of issuing bills of credit or bills payable to order or bearer, except under the conditions prescribed in this Constitution. It didn't come out too sweet. Let me try again. The General Assembly shall not have power to establish or incorporate any bank or banking company or moneyed institution for the purpose of issuing bills of credit or bills payable to order or bearer, except under the conditions prescribed in this Constitution. That was the same as the 1816 Constitution. Section 2. No bank shall be established otherwise than under a general banking law, except as provided in the 4th section of this article. And Andy Horning comments, there are many constitutional proscriptions and denied powers regarding central banking. I pray that citizens will have an epiphany about the disastrous, unconstitutional/illegal Federal Reserve Bank. Section 3. If the General Assembly shall enact, excuse me, still recovering from that surgery. If the General Assembly shall enact a general banking law, such law shall provide for the registry and countersigning by an officer of state of all paper credit designed to be circulated as money, and ample collateral security readily convertible into specie, that's gold and silver, for the redemption of same in gold or silver shall be required, which collateral security shall be under the control of the proper officer or officers of the state. And Andy Horning comments, while this section doesn't specifically forbid fractional reserve banking, it does at least mandate ample collateral security for all paper credit. That's a far sight better than what we've got now. He goes on, I love to see a debt-free currency issued in competition/replacement of Federal Reserve notes. Did you notice our Constitution's gold/silver valuation requirement? Very nice. Even more important, as our federal government increasingly illegally destroys our dollar. You should insist upon citizens' right to barter using whatever unit of barter you want, such as the Liberty Dollar, which in 2007 was illegally stolen in Indiana by our federal government agents. Now we move back to the text itself. Section 4. The General Assembly may also charter a bank with branches without collateral security as required in the preceding section. Section 5. If the General Assembly shall establish a bank with branches, the branches shall be mutually responsible for each other's liabilities upon all paper credit issued as money. Section 6 was repealed in 1940. What was Section 6? Andy Horning did some research. He comments, here is what was repealed in what I think was a horrible mistake. And the repealed section reads, the stockholders in every bank or banking company shall be individually responsible to an amount over and above their stock equal to their respective shares of stock for all debts or liabilities of said bank or banking company. That's the end of Andy's comment. Section 7. All bills or notes issued as money shall be at all times redeemable in gold or silver, and no law shall be passed sanctioning directly or indirectly the suspension by any bank or banking company of specie payments. Andy Horning comments, it has somehow gotten into the heads of many that the USA Constitution's Article 1, Section 10 invalidates the Indiana Constitution's sound money law. It does seem to say that no state can coin money, but it also says No state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. Consider these two issues, Andy goes on. Number one, Indiana's sound money law is not about counterfeiting federal money. It's offering the gold/silver coin tender for payments of debts, which is specifically mandated by federal law. And number two, the feds are in breach of their contract, so we have no legal tender at all right now. Until or unless the U.S. Constitution becomes in effect, it's not an issue anyway. Section 7 specifically mandates specie, that is gold or silver, payment/backing that the feds stole. Yes, that's the proper word, from us many decades ago. Now we go on to the text of Article 11. Section 8. Holders of banknotes shall be entitled, in case of insolvency, to preference of payment over all other creditors. Section 9. No bank shall receive directly or indirectly a greater rate of interest than shall be allowed by law to individuals loaning money. Section 10. Repealed, 1940. Here, Andy says what was repealed, and that is, quote, every bank or banking company shall be required to cease all banking operations within 20 years from the time of its organization and promptly thereafter to close its business, end quote. Does that say what I think it says? That no bank could be in existence for more than 20 years? Of course, during the New Deal in 1940, that got repealed. And Andy goes on to comment, yes, that sounds crazy to modern ears, but a 20-year sunset certainly would have dealt with too big to fail. And it reveals the reasoned fears people used to have about banksters. Section 11. The General Assembly is not prohibited from investing the trust funds in a bank with branches, but in case of such investment, the safety of the same shall be guaranteed by unquestionable security. Section 12. The state shall not be a stockholder in any bank, nor shall the credit of the state, ever be given or loaned in aid of any person, association, or corporation. Nor shall the state become a stockholder in any corporation or association. However, the General Assembly may by law, with limitations and regulations, provide that prohibitions in this section do not apply to a public employee retirement fund. Andy goes on to say, obviously that last sentence was tacked on by amendment, but do note, and he quotes here, nor shall the credit of the state ever be given or loaned in aid of any person, association, or corporation. He goes on to say, read that a few times until it sinks in that all the credit, perks, loans, subsidies, and breaks given to foreign corporations, sports teams, mall builders, politicians, and the like are illegal. Section 13. Corporations other than banking shall not be created by special act, but may be formed under general laws. Andy Horning goes to comment, as far as I can tell, most people don't know that corporations are government, not business entities, created to oppose the inherent accountability of a free market. I make this point because when you hear the phrase unregulated free market, you're hearing ignorant blather. Regulations, including licensing, are almost always created to favor the politically connected, not the meek, poor, or underserved. It is political regulations, not the lack thereof, that most often and egregiously cause havoc and crime. Section 14. Dues from corporations shall be secured by such individual liberty. Sorry, let me try that again. Section 14. Dues from corporations shall be secured by such individual liability of the stockholders or other means as may be prescribed by law. And now I would like to make a comment about probably Section 13. I don't know about you, but I quite often listen to the podcasts of constitutional attorney Chris Ann Hall. And she often says, so are you happy with the government that owns you? Are you happy with the government that owns you? Think about it. By taxes and licensing regulations, like medical licenses, the government owns and controls your property, thoughts, and actions. It does not take much for the state medical or pharmacy board to control my ability to treat patients. Is that liberty or tyranny? Is it liberty or tyranny? Because if I go out on a limb and decide to treat some virus with a drug that is safe and effective, but not part of the plan, I could lose my license. And believe me, it wouldn't take much, even in the state of Indiana, for something like that to happen, or close your restaurant or close your business if you don't follow mandates. And if you don't think that can't happen, open your eyes. So may I take this opportunity for a brief rant on actions that can be taken by individual states to promote sound money and monetary policy. What can states do to promote sound monetary policy? Well, you can find all this, by the way, at the 10th Amendment Center. One thing to do would be to recognize gold and silver as legal tender at market value using coins minted by the United States as per the U.S. Constitution requirements. There is an example of the United Precious Metals Association of Utah, and they have a currency called, the goldback, which actually has threads of pure gold woven into it so that it is a spendable currency for small transactions. Number 2, eliminate sales taxes and capital gains taxes on exchange of money. So use gold and silver as money, not a commodity. Number 3, establish state gold depositories, such as the Texas Bullion Depository. Eventually, you could have a bullion-funded credit card. But in summary, if a majority of states controlled their own supply of gold, it would conceivably make the Federal Reserve completely irrelevant and set the foundation for the people to nullify the Federal Reserve's monopoly on money in practice and effect. Competition with the Fed will drive it out of business. Before signing off, let me remind you of the U.S. Constitution education classes that Dr. Galloway and I have been initiating. These are a series of 3 very intensive 2-hour interactive video courses. The first was on September 14th at the first Baptist Church of Pearson. First Baptist Church of Pearson. The second of the 3 courses will take place from 6 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, September the 28th, and the final installment of the course will be on Tuesday, October the 5th, again from 6 to 8 p.m. Again, these are not repeats. These are 6 one-hour videos, interactive videos, which we've divided into 2, 2, and 2. They all build on each other. Please message me if you wish to attend so the appropriate accommodations can be made. I would also be happy to come to your group and present. Now, the 6-disc audio set can be obtained from the John Birch Society. Go to jbs.org, go to Shop JBS, and search under the videos for The Constitution is the Solution. The Constitution is the Solution. It includes in here also the interactive questions and discussion manual. When you're done with this 6 hours of video, your eyes will be wide open. Without understanding the Constitution, it is impossible to recognize and remedy tyranny. Well, now we're coming to the part you all love, Hoosiers. In closing, I want you to remember doctor's orders. Wash your hands. Don't touch your face. But above all, keep your distance. Keep your distance from those socialists, statists, globalists, collectivists, politicians, and bureaucrats. Because now you know who they are. They can no longer hide. The curtain has been pulled back. It's time we drain the D.C. and Indianapolis swamp. We must reform the GOP. And I've coined this phrase that the GOP currently stands for Globalist Oligarchy Party. I think that's kind of cute. The Globalist Oligarchy Party. We don't want that. We want to drain the GOP of that and replace the swamp creatures with people dedicated to constitutional fidelity. Constitutional fidelity. 100% constitutional fidelity. Well, once again, thank you and see you on Thursday, September 30th at 7 p.m. for the next installment of the Indiana Constitution, Article 12, the militia. That should be interesting. So Hoosiers, remember what they say at the conclusion of every JBS Constitution Corner episode. Don't just know your Constitution. Live it. Live it every day. Well, good night. And again, this is a pre-recording because of my internet limitations, but we shall overcome this someday. Thank you. Good night.